What is good, defenders, and welcome to episode 370 of the most LAFC podcast on the planet. That's right, this is Defenders of the Bank. Good morning to all of you. Hopefully you know my voice. We know some babies go to sleep to my voice, and we hope now you're waking up to my voice. It's the Scarf, J.R. Liebert, coming to you live from Lawndale, and of course, across the interwebs in world-famous Philomonster Studios, my partner in pod, drinking from both the cup of life and the cup of Hello Kitty, one Christian, Philemon.
The cup of kitty, indeed. I just woke up. Alarm blaring. So fresh off of sleeping that I remember my dream. And it was an odd one, too. I'm at Barnes & Noble, and I'm buying a magazine and 2 books. I can't recall the name of the 2 books, but I'm buying them. And oddly, I'm not wearing any clothes, and I'm shielding myself with newspapers. I somehow managed to reach into my pockets and pull out change to give to the person at the register because I don't want to break the $5 bill that's at the counter, because to me, I don't want to have more change, and I don't want them in my pockets. But what pockets? I have no clothes on, and I'm covering myself with newspaper. And oddly enough, no one in the damn bookstore seems to mind. That being said, I may need a few more sips of coffee to reboot and buffer. But either way, good morning, defenders.
What did you do after you got home last night? There's a lot to unpack there. I'm sure you can look up on the internet what it means, but
apparently I have to well, there's a couple of things the way to interpret it, and the Coog in the chat for less than 400 G's. Okay, but what about the mere presence of hanging out with Philly? That's at least got to be worth a little less than that.
I
think it's something along the lines of I was reading this something about needing to reveal information. I don't know, probably trying to tell my boss that I'm going to Wichita on Thursday. I don't know, maybe that might be part of it. I have no idea. Me and Denis went out drinking. That's the reality of it.
I'm just impressed you're dreaming about being in a Barnes & Noble.
No, I'm always at a Barnes & Noble. So right by my office across the street, there is a Barnes & Noble. And no joke, on a weekly basis, I like to get up and walk and go there. And then walk simply past the sports section just to see if there's any cool biographies. I always love walking by the nonfiction new releases because there's always something fun and cool going on. And quite honestly, if I'm feeling down on myself, believe it or not, I like to walk by the inspiration in the self-help section just to read the titles of the books. Something simple like that popular book with the orange cover, The Subtle Art About Not Giving Up. You read some of these titles when you're having a day and you're like, you know what, that's fine. Now I could go about my day, got some steps in. There's a Starbucks right next door. I enjoy Barnes & Noble. My mom used to take me to bookstores all the time when I was a kid. Anytime I wanted, a new toy, a Ninja Turtle, a new video game, she's like, well, let's go to the bookstore. And I would immerse myself in the books, whether it be, believe it or not, Dante's Inferno or Calvin and Hobbes. Yes, very wide variance. Or more importantly, Street and Smith's college basketball previews. I love going to Barnes & Noble.
Dude, I love that. I miss Borders. Borders was great back in the day. I also miss the Barnes & Noble in the Marina. Marina Del Rey had a great Barnes & Noble, but I missed that one for sure. Philly, last night, obviously lots of great things to take away from the match. LAFC gets 3 points. Denis Bouanga scores and assists yet again. And it very well could have been the second straight match where all 3 starters up top scored, if not for a lucky moment there by Lalas Abubakar. Javier Del Rosen scores as well. I think, though, there are 2 takeaways from last night. One very, 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 very good and one very, 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 very bad. Let's talk about the good one first. Philly, you and I stuck around after the regular season match ended to watch LAFC's unified team take on Dallas's unified team. For those that don't know, it's a team of players with varying abilities playing against Dallas's club of the same type. And it was a really cool atmosphere. I'm so disappointed that more people didn't stick around. First of all, shout out to Mario and all the other drummers and Tony who stuck around on the capo stand and all the other capos. It was really cool to still have the atmosphere provided there at BMO Stadium for this match. And Philly, you and I came away talking about one player in particular, and that was number 18, and it said it on the back of his kit, Turbo. Turbo was the highlight of the night.
He was. And yes, I was going to shout out the Capos too. I think I saw Eddie Martinez from the Empire Boys in the Capos stands as well. I don't recall. We were like center pitch, so I couldn't really see too far. But yeah, shout out to Mario, shout out to Tony, shout out to Eddie. Those are the names. Those are the people that I recall seeing from the silhouettes. It was great fun. We went right after the press conference, so we caught the second half. They played two 25-minute halves, and Turbo had the goal of the game, but not just in that match, but the goal of the day, period. He was what the equivalent of center pitch would have been, just slightly over it, and he let one rip, beating FC Dallas's keeper. You want to talk about another man who played with a lot of swag and moxie, FC Dallas's keeper. You pointed it out to me after he made a save. No. Hitting his head like that, pumping himself up anytime he made a save. It was a lot of fun. It was a good atmosphere. It was nice and chill. Unfortunately, LAFC didn't get the win. FC Dallas came out and got a last minute goal, but it was fun. I really enjoyed it. And David Martinez at the end was there to hand out scarves to all the players. Ryan Hollingshead stuck around for a bit. No, it was really cool. I enjoyed it. And I think we have another one of these coming up, don't we?
Yeah, massive. Yeah, we do have another one of these coming up. They're going to be playing at Chicago on August 9th. And then I got to look and see what the second home game is. I got to go back and check our schedule for that. But shout out to all the coaches out there that made this happen. LAFC did a really cool thing. Even before the match, some of the unified team players were signing on the concourse, had pictures made up of all of them. Just such a cool atmosphere and experience. They were up in a suite in Founders Club, which was awesome, that everybody got to watch the game together. Just one of the best things that this club does. So proud of that LAFC unified team. And even though they fell 3-2 on kind of a late goal, again, Turbo just providing the moment of the night. Probably the nicest goal that we'll see all season. Absolutely loved it. So yeah, let's get into our normal banter, our this day in LAFC history, and then just a quick couple updates on LAFC's schedule. Of course, this match played on July 12th, and on July 12th in 2019, much like we've been playing recently, LAFC had played their fourth game in 10 days against the Houston Dynamo in this one, and not their fourth game in 10 days against the Houston Dynamo, but their fourth game in 10 days, this one happening to be against the Houston Dynamo with no Carlos Vela in the lineup. Using a patchwork lineup, LAFC came back to defeat Houston 3-1 after going down 1-0. And the goals scored by Adama Diomande with one in the first half and one in the second, and Diego Rossi in the 88th minute. But that game will forever be known as the incredible chase down block from behind, not by LeBron James, but by one Mohamed El Munir. That was an incredible chase down save on the goal line by Mohamed El Munir. And that's, I'll always remember, Albert Elise was one of those players that I always thought would do a little bit more in MLS, never really did. But it was really cool to watch that play by Mohamed El Munir. That was July 12th, 2019, and that was this day in LAFC history. And in news and notes, all I've got, Philly, is a couple of updates to the LAFC schedule, and it involves a couple matches in October. We all know, of course, that our match against Austin had to be postponed due to the devastating flooding. And again, our hearts and thoughts and prayers all still go out to everybody there in Texas affected by all of that flooding. That match has now been rescheduled to Sunday, October 12th. That'll be a 3 p.m. match at Q2 Stadium in Austin. So again, that match now Sunday, October 12th. And the week before, Sunday, October 5th, our home match against Atlanta United has been pushed up 90 minutes from 7:30 p.m. to 6 p.m. So if you've got plans to come to that Atlanta United match on Sunday, October 5th, get there an hour and a half earlier because now the match is at 6 p.m. Philly, LAFC 2 playing out at Titan Stadium today, 7 p.m. against Timbers 2. So that should be fun. And then for all your Angel City needs, don't forget, listen to at Angel City Chicks whenever it is that they record, and be sure to
Huh,
follow them on
it's a
all
darn
their
good question.
social. I know, on all their social media platforms. That's about it, Philly. Anything that you'd like to talk about before we get in to LAFC against Dallas?
No, I don't have anything profound to say. It was really the scheduling thing. I'm glad that they went to a 6 p.m. game rather than a 7:30 on Sunday in that October 5th game against Atlanta United. We all love going to BMO, but there's nothing worse than having to be at BMO late on a Sunday night when you know you got work in the morning. So shout out to the powers that be for changing that schedule around. Yeah, 6 p.m. games. I think that should be a thing that gets mandated. 6 p.m. Sundays. Who on the East Coast is going to stay up late to watch LAFC versus Atlanta United? So you're obviously doing the footy mob a disservice by the games going so late. So this is a good thing for all, and we'll all be able to get home before the 10 o'clock news. I like it. Thank you.
Another good thing for all is Dallas on the schedule. And of course, LAFC got to play FC Dallas last night at BMO Stadium, coming in 13th in the West, giving up 37 goals, the third most in the Western Conference. And LAFC added to that total, of course, again last night. Just 27 goals scored on the season in their 20 matches, so a minus 10. And our 13th, lucky number 13, meeting all time in the MLS regular season. LAFC has won 6, lost 4, and drawn 2 in the previous 12. But Philly, BMO Stadium, a house of horrors for FC Dallas.
Oh, House of Horrors, man. You want to talk about, even though 8 points separate the two in the standings, historically the record isn't great, but the record isn't great when we head on down to Dallas. There's something about the Lone Star State that makes it impossible for LAFC to succeed. But when it comes to doing it at BMO, no problem. And I think in that time period, we're looking at destruction of Dallas for that matter. I think like a 13-3 is the all-time goal tally in all of those games at BMO / the bank. So yes, FC ribeye steak, maybe FC ribeye sandwich. I don't know, one of the two. I think sandwiches might be better for these guys. Steaks might be a little too proper. But yes, they do not succeed in BMO Stadium. And you wonder when FC Dallas rolls in if, I know when the game goes on, it's tunnel vision, but you think of the Ryan Hollingshead. He's like, he spent a great deal of time there. I didn't even think about it because we didn't highlight him in our scouting report. And Kosi Tafari spent some time there as well. And then, we have guys like Sebastian Ibiaga, Marco Farfan come back. Walker Zimmerman came from FC Dallas. We have a lot of ties here and there with FC Dallas. But the one tie we didn't have was last night, thankfully. And, we kind of gave it to him, despite the score only being 2-0. Yeah, FC Dallas don't do, I can't swear, a darn thing in BMO Stadium.
Yeah, no, look, 0-5-1 with 5 straight losses coming in at BMO Stadium. But, how does that correlate, right? Because this is a team led by Eric Quill and Lucho Acosta and Peter Musa. This isn't the Jesus Ferreira led or even the Ryan Hollingshead or Nkosi Tafari led Dallas clubs that have played against us. So you just wonder how a club is able to do that over a long period of time with so much turnover, both in the coaching box and on the rosters for FC Dallas. But no MLS All-Stars for FC Dallas this year, despite having the former league MVP in Lucho Acosta. And oh, by the way, talk about a disappointing performance in terms of body language, in terms of everything that he brought to the game. It was pretty terrible for Lucho Acosta. This is a player who they even said it on the match, on the broadcast. They're not starting Lucho Acosta because maybe they're looking for better work rate or better body language or something. He honestly looked like a guy, Philly, that July 24th, he wants somebody to come get him out of Frisco, Texas.
Well, if on Dallas's notes, and I wish there's a better place to find this. There is and there isn't, but he was still 1 card away from suspension. 1 yellow card away from suspension. And on One More Sleep, I mentioned a go after an attack because I thought he would get the start, obviously, because he's yellow card prone. And you've got 3 members of FC Dallas that have had 3 red cards throughout the course of the season. So they're a team that is up there in MLS in terms of, well, cards for that matter. He didn't get the start. He did really quickly pick up a yellow card. And it was a stupid yellow card, too, towards the end of the second half. And now he's going to have to sit out a match. So between the body language, obviously, the work rate, the crap cheap foul that he gave up, and not anything that was done because we were really in a run of play that was threatening. But yes, everything points to the fact that he is not happy. And you really have to pay attention to him when you're high up in the stands, because at 5'3", he looks about this big on your screen.
Yeah, look, he just looks like a guy that doesn't want to be there. You mentioned the yellow cards. I'm sorry. I'm starting Lucho Acosta in every single match if he's healthy.
That's good.
The dude's an incredible talisman. Was much happier, obviously, in FC Cincinnati before coming over to Dallas. But FC Cincinnati decided to bring in Evander, and it turns out that's working out pretty well for FC Cincinnati. Evander's top 2 or 3 in the MVP discussion right now. That being said, Eric Quill, head coach, who I had to look up. I had no idea who the head coach was of FC Dallas. They've kind of run through coaches recently, 6, 10, and 6 overall with Dallas, the former manager of New Mexico United. And I remember when we played New Mexico United, we brought on the guy who does their New Mexico United podcast. He was great. And I remember talking about Eric Quill in that episode. So that kind of brought back some memories. He also, like we talked about on One More Sleep, played for my favorite former MLS club that is no longer a thing, the Tampa Bay Mutiny.
Wait, you weren't even watching the sport back when they were around. I don't want to hear your favorite MLS.
Wait, that's not true. I was watching the sport back then.
You were watching the Tampa Bay Mutiny and Carlos Valderrama.
I was watching the Tampa Bay Mutiny and first Golden Boot winner, Roy Lassiter. Roy Lassiter was my first favorite MLS player.
Okay.
And look, what this turned out to be, Philly, was another low block, right, that LAFC had to figure out a way through. MLSsoccer.com has this as a 5-3-2, but I saw Marco Farfan a lot more at left back, really playing a 4-man in the back. It looked a little bit more like a traditional 4-3-3 at times too. I don't know. It was all over the place. But Philly, I should learn by now, right? When I talk crap about a goalkeeper, Yohei Takaoka, who's having a fantastic season for Vancouver, I said that he was underwhelming and underperforming, and now he's an MLS All-Star. Looking at the numbers, looking at the way he's played this season, I did not think Martin Paz had been very good this season. And I think that Martin Paz was very, very good in this match for sure. But he was very good because LAFC did what they had to do. They took their shooting boots and pointed them squarely at Martin Paz this entire match. I was really happy with the amount of pressure, the amount of movement, and the amount of activity that we forced on Martin Paz. But again, he had a great game, so I kind of have to shut up and give him a little bit of credit.
You need to stop talking ill about goalkeepers, because anytime you do, they do play well. Him, Takaoka, you better not say anything about any of the keepers from down the 110, because then we'll all just, I don't know, pile drive you or something.
I don't want that. Let's get into the rosters. Let's get into the starting lineup, and let's get into this match. Obviously,
real quick, because the ADDs happen to attack me.
Yeah.
We mentioned this. This is such a popular and a common term, and I'm waiting for it to load right here. But you talked about how Acosta talisman, right? Yeah. All the time. Like anytime I hear this, I think of it, and thank the good people at ChatGPT, because I had them draw me a talisman. There you go.
Oh yeah, look at that.
Talisman. By the way, Lafferty would appreciate this. If y'all want to know how Philly feels today, you would have to go no further than to look back at one scarf on One More Sleep.
Oh, dude, really? Really? Why are we doing this? What did I do?
Now I feel better about things. No, actually, the best scarf photo. Oh, dang it. You were wearing a Chewbacca costume. That one's not loading. All right. Anyway, sorry. I didn't mean to get off the subject, but, it all kicked in.
I just love that I'm catching strays at 10:05 in the morning. My
That's
goodness.
what you get when you talk ill about keepers that happen to play well against us.
Goalkeeper Martin Paz, who again had a very good game. Lots of saves. Good job, Martin. Best save of the night, though, was by Lalas Abubakar on the back line. But that being said, Shaq Moore, Lalas Abubakar, Sebastian Ibiaga, Marco Farfan, and Patrickson Delgado. We obviously know both Sebastian and Marco from their time at LAFC, and we look back on that time fondly. Midfielder Pedrinho, Sebastian Lletget, Philly's favorite player, Du Bois.
Becky G's favorite player.
That's for sure. And Ramiro Benetti. And up top, Pitar Musa, who has 7 goals on the season and leads the team in assists. He's very, very good. And a striker that they were, I don't know, talking about being in form a little bit more if you read all of FC Dallas's stuff on their website. But I didn't see a lot from the form of one Logan Farrington. And in the 18, you had Scott Kamungo Acosta and Kayak. You got to be really careful with how you pronounce this Brazilian player who has one name. It's Kayak.
Are you sure?
Yeah, that's how our public address announcer pronounced it last night.
Well, how'd you pronounce it otherwise?
Nope.
Oh, come on.
Nope.
Well, at least spell it out and put it in the chat and let everybody else try to figure it out.
His name is Kaick. Kayak. Kayak. Philly, please, for the love of God, start talking about LAFC's lineup.
All right, you know how we talk about how we're spoiled in Los Angeles for a variety of reasons, and we demand expectations. I'm listening to the starting lineup get called yesterday from our public address announcer, and then it just really dawns on me like how unbelievable it is that we have Hugo Lloris on our team, making his 50th appearance for that matter with LAFC. We have Hugo Lloris. I know for Arsenal supporters, that means nothing to you. For Tottenham supporters, that means a lot. For global football enthusiasts, that means a heck of a lot. A World Cup winner, a man of his talent. It is wild to think that we have him in our team. And I don't appreciate it because he's not that often in the press conference. The man continues to do some pretty incredible things for us. And yeah, just an embarrassment of riches that we have as far as that's concerned. Simple things. Pay attention to Hugo Lloris. Yeah, he might come out of the box and make things a little exciting for us. Just pay attention to his goal, to his distribution. When he has the ball and he's trying to find an open man, his ability to connect with somebody on the run or the precision that he has is incredible. We've never had a keeper up to this point that was able to do that as well as Lloris. Sure, Maxime Crepeau had a lot of great qualities to him. Sure, John McCarthy did too. Even Tyler Miller. I'm going to pause for a moment and snicker at the party who's going to really enjoy that one. But there's no keeper that we've had that's been better than Hugo Lloris. Obviously not in terms of a body of work because he only made his 50th appearance, but in terms of his ability. Anyway, I just wanted to shout out Hugo, 50th appearance, LAFC, and another clean sheet. No big changes, man. Sergi Palencia, Aaron Long, which we are going to address when we get to that part of it within the 74th or so minute. Eddie Segura, Ryan Hollingshead squaring up against his old team. Timothy Tillman, Igor Jesus, Marky Delgado up top. Dilrosun, who, man, the more he plays for LAFC, the more I really like this guy. I think the more I'm going to miss him come the 24th. Nathan Ordaz and Denis Bouanga. We would see Jeremy Abobasi head onto the pitch. We would see Ryan Raposo head on the pitch, and Kosi Tafari and David Martinez as well. No big changes from earlier in the week. And this was a team that absolutely dominated FC Dallas in all categories, with the exception of the score. But we'll talk about that momentarily.
Yeah, don't forget our boy Yaya Boa.
Yeah, exactly. I apologize. Wearing your former favorite player, Edward Atuesta's number 20.
My former favorite player. Look, the first half was when all the goals were scored, folks. That's let's bury the headline there a little bit. LAFC took a little bit to break down the low block, but look, the quote from Steve Cherundolo says it all in the press conference. All that was missing from this match for it to be perfect was a third goal, right? And I mean, I think it's the...
You're welcome, by the way. I asked him that question.
You did. Yes, you did. I think it's the dumbest expression in sports that the most dangerous lead is 2-0, because if you lead 1-0 and then they score, you don't have a lead anymore. So why isn't that the most dangerous lead? But I get it, I guess, because then you start to put pressure on yourself after going down or going up 2-1 instead of 2-0. I think it's so stupid. Whatever. But that being said, LAFC looked very good in the first half, very cohesive, very confident, and they were executing their high press really well. We almost had our first goal in the 22nd minute as that high press, Denis with the takeaway, dragged it to the middle, fires it, unfortunately, right at Martin Paz, but just 9 minutes later, this one again, all the high press, all the credit goes to whoever installed the high press there. 31st minute in Philly. And it's Marky Mark and the Funky Bunch, Mark Delgado, forcing the turnover from Lalas Abubakar, who taps it over to Denis Bouanga. And I just loved, he kind of taps it over to Denis, and Denis does a little turn and fires the pass over to Nate, who does a little turn and fires it in the back of the net. And Philly, you and I both got to talk to Nate after the match. And this is a kid who is playing, you said it, right? He came into the season wanting to be that dude. He is certainly filling the role quite nicely.
Yeah, and those were his exact words early in the season, that he wanted to be that dude. Denis playing the role of the distributor, and this is something that we wanted to see out of a center forward so many times. Just you get it, you turn, you fire. It's something, unfortunately, we didn't get a chance to really see too much out of the likes of one Olivier Giroud. But great defense, you mentioned it. Abubakar was trying to connect with Ibeagha. Ibeagha maybe playing the role of double agent in that case, because Delgado had no problem punching it away from him. Denis to Ordaz, a beautiful goal, his 5th of the season. And anytime LAFC happens to score first, dating back to 2022, our record, get a load of this. Going back to the start of 2022, 55, 3, and 5. We don't lose, really, when we score first. Incredible way to start. And quite honestly, Scarf, we were kind of lucky to have done that in this way, because Peter Musa easily could have spoiled things early in the 13th minute. Let's not kid ourselves. He had one that just went to the right of Hugo Lloris, just missing ever so gracefully. But when we score first, we're not a team to be messed with. And, well, the goals wouldn't just stop there, because you said it, you buried the headline. All the goals would be in the first half.
Yeah, and look, it's not like FC Dallas was without opportunities, right? But in the 42nd minute, you have a Shaq Moore shot, which you and I could have saved just as easily as Hugo Lloris did. And that's his only save of the entire night. It's not as if Peter Musa didn't put one just past, or Lucho Acosta, or any of these other guys who had opportunities didn't just miss. It's not as if maybe FC Dallas didn't capitalize on a couple of the opportunities they were given, a wide open header in the box late, a couple of other things. But I think it's the overall pressure that LAFC put on over the course of, let's say, the first 70, 75 minutes or so, that really tends to break down a team over the course of a match. And I thought that was what I saw from LAFC that was so good. It was this high press that was really forcing Dallas to be a little bit quicker with their decision-making than they might want to be a little bit more uncomfortable, not just in our half, and they didn't have the ball in our half of the pitch all that much, but even when they were kind of defending their own half, it was this way that they had to speed up the game over and over and over and over again. And I thought that just put FC Dallas in a little bit more of an uncomfortable position than they would have liked. No more so, Philly, I think, than the uncomfortable position that Shaq Moore was put in, trying to guard Denis Bouanga 1v1 in the first half, right before the halftime whistle. And Philly, we mentioned it on One More Sleep. He's drawn 4 penalties, 1 away from Hani Mukhtar. Well, Hani Mukhtar's got some company now at the top with the most penalties drawn in Major League Soccer this season.
Denny the Destroyer switched his name to D-Train as he goes through Shaq Moore. Reading the names, man, of Dallas's backline, there's some guys that are pretty solid. I'll be honest, I'm really surprised at the fact that they've conceded 39 goals with the likes of Shaq Moore, who obviously has ties to the United States men's national team. Farfan, pretty good defender within his own right. And then obviously, if you look center, Lalas Abubakar, you've seen him plenty of times with the Rapids, and then Sebastian Ibiaga. We know how talented he is. And all things considered, they do concede a heck of a lot of goals. But Denis doing what he does best, charging forward in the box. You're not going to stop the D train or the destroyer. He draws the foul, gets to be positioned 12 yards, 11 meters in front of Martin Paz, and then he buries his 10th goal of the season. Denis does it. Denis the Destroyer does it again. I love Denis D-Train Destroyer does it again. How's about that for your alliteration?
Philly's just throwing in all the D words in that one. Look, I made the hot take, right, on our last episode where I said that I think Denis Bouanga obviously scores more important goals than Carlos Vela did. Carlos Vela, the better regular season player. Denis Bouanga in all of the other competitions really seems to be stepping up more than Carlos did, although Carlos didn't nearly have the amount of opportunities to do it as Denis Bouanga has. But I just want to point out one little stat. Denis Bouanga is now 9 goals away from tying Carlos Vela. Carlos Vela scored 1 goal every 2 matches. That's the average, 93 goals in 186 matches. That is a perfect 1 in every 2 ratio, 93 in 186. Denis Bouanga is 9 goals behind that, 84 goals in 133 matches. He's averaging almost 0.63, I think it is, goals per match. We're talking about a scoring rate that if he plays in 186 matches for LAFC, he's going to be at like the 120 mark, where Carlos Vela was only at 93. I think, though, what we all remember is the flair in the Carlos Vela goals, right? The dragging it over to his left foot and everybody kind of knowing what was coming next. It's Mariano Rivera with the cutter, right? When he walks in after hearing Enter Sandman, you know the cutter is coming. When Carlos Vela is announced in the starting lineup and then everybody cheers, you know what's coming next, that left foot. And I don't think we can say the same with Denis Bouanga, the way that he scores goals, the way that he sets up his goal scoring opportunities. A lot of them came from the spot. A lot of them come from, you mentioned, I think that's the perfect analysis. All due respect to Dontrell Willis of the Florida Marlins from back in the day, the original D train. But I think you're right. There's this energy, this motion, this effort for a full 90 minutes that maybe makes Denis Bouanga's goals look not as spectacular, but they have meant so much more to the club.
The Coug mentions, and that's true. Denny's gonna have to change his attacking style as he gets older. But for the time being, we're enjoying the attacking style that he has. I've said this time and time again. No question, unquestionably, my favorite player ever to don a black and gold kit. I just love the way he plays with such passion, such anger. Like, he wants to win at all costs. And it's obvious. And then, detractors are probably going to say, well, he's got 84 goals because, he fires that many shots. We were having a conversation with a pretty intelligent party the other day. I'm not going to mention his name, but isn't that the guy that you're going to want to have take the shot? Right. People complain that, Michael Jordan only had that many points because he took the most shots. Well, yeah. Who do you want to have with the ball, game on the line? Same thing could be said about LeBron James. Same thing can really be said about any elite athletes. Your best player, that's the one that you're going to want to have. And then if you look at his statistics, he's number 1 in Major League Soccer with shots, 91. He's number 2 with them being on target. 92 shots on target with 41. About almost 45% of the time that Denis fires, he is on target. So it's not like he's firing wide and missing. Sometimes it may seem that way, but he's almost 50%. Anytime he fires it, it's going to go in the direction of the keeper. I'm not surprised that he has this many goals, and I'm not going to be surprised when he eclipses Carlos Vela. And he does now show the ability to distribute. He got the assist to Nathan Ordaz. He's having one of his best seasons in Major League Soccer in terms of compiling the assists. No question. My favorite all-time LAFC player, he's the man. Denis the Destroyer is the man.
Yeah. We go into halftime really feeling good about things, up 2-0. And really all you were hoping for was that everybody now gets out of this one healthy. That was unfortunately not to be the case. I mentioned it on our last pod, and you kind of disagreed with me a little bit about Javier Del Rosa. I thought that what I was looking for from Javier really reared its head most in the 50th minute, where it was a little Carlos Vela-like as he took the ball from the right side, gathered it to his left foot, and fired, forcing a really nice save from Martin Paz. He did it once in the first half when he found Timothy Tillman on a run into the box. To me, he just needs to be a little bit more decisive, a little bit more often with the ball at his feet. I feel like too many times he looks at that defender in front of him and decides he's not going to try to break him down. I think that's what made players like Brian Rodriguez and Kike Oliveira, as much as they maybe underperformed a little bit, although I think that was more the case for Brian and not for Kike, and more of what we see sometimes with David Martinez, just in kind of a different way. When they have the ball at their feet, they're looking to take on their defender 1v1 and make progressive moves, whereas it looks like more often than not so far, Javier Del Rosa is looking to, okay, I have the defender in front of me. What's the next pass that I should make? And I would really like to see Javier Del Rosa do more of what he did in that 50th minute, where he turned and he fired while taking the ball over to his left-hand side. That's the side he's going to play on. He's got to be able to keep the defense accountable. They can't just always roll 2 and 3 guys over to Denis Bouanga's side.
Look, you forget about the pass that he also had within the first half to Timothy Tillman. He threaded it through a ribeye sandwich. So
That's what I said.
You said that?
I said that.
Oh, sorry. I guess I was looking at Hagrid, who was yelling at me. There's so many things that he does. Even if you go back to the game on Wednesday, you talk about how he doesn't go ahead and take on his defenders. When they were on that south end of the pitch, he took several players from Colorado on that sideline, like through and got a pass off. I like the way Dilroson's starting to fit in, but I don't like the price tag. But we have to figure that aspect out. I think he's tentative because in a lot of ways he still wants to find a way to fit into the system. He doesn't want to be selfish, but I think he's a lot more cerebral, Scarf, than a Brian Rodriguez, a Kike Oliveira, a David Martinez. Obviously, age comes with a bit of experience. I just think he assesses things a lot differently rather than going bull in a china shop attacking the defenders in the box. Obviously, Denis Bouanga does that, but Denis Bouanga's elite level as compared to everybody else. I like Dilrosun a lot. I don't know if they were going to do anything they can to hang on to him again. Don't like the price tag. I know there's plenty of fans of Chivas that don't want a Club America player on our team, but I really like the way he's fit in, and we've been winning, with him up top. And we've looked pretty good. He's been a formidable part of our attack. We'll see how it goes. Midweek game against Minnesota. I mean, we see how it goes against Galaxy next week, but I think we utilize him as best as we can, and I think he picked it up really quickly. You got to also applaud the fact that he knows he's not here for a long time. He probably thinks he's in a crap situation, but he really is making the best of it and doing a fine job, learning the system and learning players that in a couple of weeks he's not probably going to talk to again.
Yeah, look, I mean, he should have scored in the 56th minute, right? If not for Lalas Abubakar taking that ball off the goal line, and he put a lot behind that shot too. Great steal on high press again by Nate. Nathan Ordaz's little back heel to Javier Del Rosa on a beautiful play there. And sure, you could argue, I said this at the top, right, that should have been where all 3 of our frontline players scored a goal for the second straight match. That would be huge. And again, I agree with what you're saying, especially with how quickly Del Rosa has been forced to fit in. And I do think the less games, the fewer games, that we start David Martinez on that right-hand side, it really shows us that maybe the club is prioritizing getting Javier Del Rosa acclimated. We've heard that there were discussions about there were negotiations about a longer time frame, an extension for his either going back to Club America or staying at LAFC. Maybe LAFC has negotiated something for the rest of the season that we could keep Del Rosa until obviously the end of 2025. I think that would be fine.
Yeah,
I do also want to check out John Thorrington's Rolodex and see who else is out there and who else he's talking to, because we don't know, right, Philly? It could be that they pull a huge move out of their hat like we haven't seen some of these other moves coming, a Giorgio Chiellini, a Gareth Bale, or something like that. I don't know. I just don't know who's out there. We're hearing a lot of different things from a lot of different sources, but certainly nothing too concrete here and now. And that being said, Dilrosun and Nate Ordaz both come off just before the 70-minute mark for David Martinez and Jeremy Ebobisse. And then Jeremy Ebobisse promptly, Philly, hitting a crossbar.
Hitting the crossbar. It happened so quick. It was a nice feed into the box. I can't tell, and I watched the replay on several occasions. I don't know if Paz had any hand on it. It really was hard to see, even on the instant replay. But either way, it still hit the top of the crossbar. And if there's any, I don't think I've ever met anybody in the LAFC community that has ties to Duke University. But you want to talk about Duke University? Represented very well in today's game, in the likes of Sebastian Ibeagha and Jeremy Ebobisse, two Blue Devils that I only learned that about recently when I was in Cary, North Carolina, doing the TST tournament. So just want to shout out the Blue Devils. And that might be gross for North Carolina people. It is gross for an Indiana Hoosier, but I think that's pretty cool when a collegiate program in the United States gets represented that way. So yeah, look, that right there, he hits the post. That could have been the 3, although there were 10 shots that were on target. One of those could have easily had been 3, but the big storyline isn't so much the case that we won the game. It's not that we had 17 shots. It's not the fact that we had 10 on target. It's the fact that right around 73 minutes and 22 seconds, and it would really, for the most part, happen off camera, Aaron Long goes down. They were showing the replays of the crossbar that Ebobisse hit. And then when they came back, you couldn't tell what happened. You asked Steve in the press conference whether it was contact related. He couldn't tell. We couldn't tell either from what Apple TV was showing us. It's moments like that sometimes you don't need 5 different angles of an instant replay. Now, I was talking to Panda about this, about what the story could have been with Aaron Long. We're not speculating. I don't want to say anything. We've not confirmed anything. I'm not hinting at stuff that we've heard from our sources inside. But Panda mentioned it because I saw a lot of stuff about ACL tears and whatnot. Panda, working in ortho, working in these type of surgeries for her entire career, mentioned that more often than not, when you have an ACL, MCL, PCL tear, the thing that disrupts is your stability, but you can still put weight on your leg. Now, of course, again, this isn't a certainty and not always the case, but you have the ability to put weight on your leg. And if you look, he could not put anything on his left leg, which leads me to speculate 2 things. A lesser scenario, maybe it had something to do with an ankle. Maybe. Just maybe. But based on his body language and the way he was hanging his head down, I would speculate something a bit worse, potentially an Achilles, because when that goes, you do not have the ability to put the weight down on that the same way you would with potentially an ACL, MCL. I don't know. Again, no speculation. These aren't hints. These are just assumptions based on conversations with medical professionals that I happen to be married to.
Yeah, I think we all kind of had that in the back of our mind after he couldn't put any weight on it, right? Like, we've seen guys walk off the pitch and know that they've done something to their knee, right? We've seen guys walk off the pitch and go, oh, I heard a pop. I'm pretty sure it's my ACL, whatever else. But yeah, I think it's okay to speculate that it could be an Achilles because we're not reporting that it's an Achilles.
No, speculating purely.
When you can't put weight on it, that, especially because to me, he is our most important defender in terms of what he does with the back line. The reason why he wears the captain armband is that he is the maestro kind of controlling things back there. We've seen what it means when you have a world-class center back like our now owner, Giorgio Chiellini. I am certainly not saying that Aaron Long was playing at a Chiellini level, but he was a player who for the last season plus, you did not at any point have to worry about Aaron Long at center back. You penciled him into the lineup every single match, occasionally giving him rest because you didn't need to worry about anything. Aaron Long, you knew what you were getting from him. And what you were getting from him was as good of defense by an MLS center back as there is in this league. And losing our captain for any amount of time is pretty detrimental. But it looks like, rehabbing an Achilles at 32, 33 years old, I mean, that is not easy to do. That is not going to be an easy road if that's the case for Aaron Long. I hear everybody in the chat saying Palencia may be our most important defender. No, I think Palencia has actually been our best defender. I think there are two different things that we're talking about here. I think for the last 2 seasons, Sergi Palencia has been our best defender, where we can put him on a club's best striker on whatever side that he's at, and he can take that striker 1v1 most of the time. But I think what Aaron Long does for the defense, both in his communications with Hugo, in his communications with players like Igor Jesus and Marky Delgado, and obviously everybody else on that back line, for me, I mean, I was sick to my stomach watching him be driven out of BMO Stadium. And this wasn't a thing, right, Philly, where he had to extend the leg to keep it immobile or whatever it is. He wasn't in the back. He wasn't lying down. He was sitting in the passenger seat of that thing with his head down. And he didn't even look up really at the 3252 as they drove by. My head and my heart just feel terribly for Aaron Long. Hugo Lloris got the armband, and Philly, I don't know how you feel, but I think we may see Hugo potentially, maybe with the armband for the rest of the season. I don't know. Maybe Mark Delgado.
Look, it's all up to the players. I mean, at the end of the day, the captain gets selected by the players and the staff because of their ability to motivate and lead a locker. It doesn't necessarily mean who the most talented is, who the best player is. It's the one that people rally behind. And Aaron Long has been that player this season. Last year, Ilyes Sanchez, obviously, like the captain's armband is a very important part of any team, whether it be football, whether it be hockey, whatever the case may be. I wouldn't give it to a likes of a Palencia or anybody like that. But then again, it's up to the players, not necessarily up to us. That leaves a very big hole in our center back position. Who's going to fill it is going to be a good question. I don't think we've utilized Nkosi Tafari. I don't know, to his best capabilities. We haven't seen too much body of work from him, but that's not so much anything other than what he's done since he's been here. People talk about how, well, Steve should probably sub these players more. Maybe, but at the same time, who has a better vantage point as to how they're doing in training, how they're fitting in with the system, what their thoughts are, how they come to work professionally. So there's a lot of things behind the scenes that we'll never, unfortunately, know. But that's going to bring a scenario where it's next man up, and it's going to have to be quick because these games are going to start getting churned out, and we're still very much in the hunt. It might seem like a down year, but for Christ's sake, we're 9-5-5. We're really not that far off of jumping back on top of the top 4, which to me is the most important and the goal. I know you want to finish on top of the Western Conference. You want to fight for the Supporters' Shield. But in my opinion, with the way the team has been playing, to me, a top 4 finish would be the goal and something that is achievable, because then that gives home field advantage come playoffs. There's no way LAFC's not making the playoffs. I knock on wood, of course, but you need that top 4 finish. And in order to do that, you need to be sound defensively. So they're going to have to do their reinforcements. Perhaps now that opens up a different thought process for the technical directors, John Thorrington and everybody, to bring in another defender. We'll see, though. I hope we're wrong about everything that we said with Aaron Long and that it's a speedy recovery. Ruben in the chat goes, Maxime Chenot, still that injury, that head injury plagues him. So hopefully he can come back. He was still listed as out as a result of that, but our thoughts are with Aaron Long. Got that UC Riverside scarf up there where he played his collegiate football. Hopefully he comes back, and shout out to the 3252 for doing an Aaron Long chant as he's getting driven in that John Deere truck by our groundskeeper, Gage Knudsen. Which, by the way, I also want to give a shout out, as always. Beautiful, pristine pitch, my friend.
28 matches this season for Denis Bouanga. And only 3 of those, 1 for Gabon and 2 for LAFC this season. 28 matches, and only 3 of those has Denis come out if he has started. We're talking about once in the 82nd minute and now twice in the 85th minute. Denis just never comes off the pitch. I mean, hell, he played all 120 minutes against Club America. The dude is just a 90-minute dog. He's that guy. So it was a little surprising when Ryan Raposo comes on in the 85th minute for Denis Bouanga. But I think what Steve did was he said, look, I just lost my captain over on the other side in the midst of a 2-0 lead. I'm going to get Denis off the pitch. Maybe something snake bit about this match. So Denis comes off after 85 minutes. And I mean, essentially with his first touch, right? Ryan Raposo provides one of the nicest passes in the match. That low cross to David Martinez. Another nice save. I think it would be the last save of the match by Martin Paz. But I really did enjoy Ryan Raposo on the pitch. He gave us a very good 5 minutes or so. He kind of plays a midfielder role sometimes. He plays a striker role. So, I mean, the guy barely plays to begin with. But that being said, he's a little bit of a Swiss Army knife on the bench. We like having these guys with some versatility out there. But Philly, I think Steve was right. They were just really missing that third goal to complete what would have been a perfect match, minus obviously the Aaron Long injury. LAFC had plenty of opportunities in that second half. So the fact that they maybe didn't put away a third goal, a little problematic. I don't know. It may be nitpicking, but I think what Nate and Steve Cherundolo both said in the press conference, right, Philly, is that the game never really felt in doubt. LAFC played with a lot of confidence, and I think LAFC, they did what they had to do, albeit maybe a little bit disappointing on the offensive end at times.
I mean, with 10 shots on target, only scoring 2 at 20% conversion rate. Yeah, not exactly the best. The nail in the coffin would have been the 3. And FC Dallas really could have made it interesting. I mean, Peter Musso could have easily have struck early. Then towards the end of the second half, they started making a couple of runs, making Hugo a little more active towards the end. One little goal, one little flicker here and there. We're looking at a completely different scenario. But the boys still held up tough, even though there were some like defensive lapses towards the end. I think with Aaron Long going down, that obviously played a huge impact on things, but they held tight. They maintained the clean sheet, which to me, obviously important and quite honestly important for any defender or goalkeeper. I mean, if you look at it, in the last 250 minutes of play, going back to June 29th against Vancouver, we haven't conceded a goal. Hugo Lloris has his 7th clean sheet of the season. And so, I mean, these types of results defensively are important for us, but obviously we have to bury it. Denis does it, and he did it with an assist. Player of the game in that sense. Nathan Ordaz had himself a nice little turnaround in a fire, but he could have also buried another one. Jeremy Abobasi came close. But then again, Martin Paz had a lot of very good saves as well. Dallas, not a very good team. Against better teams, we're not going to have the same exact offensive output as we did against FC Dallas. But not only did the game not seem in jeopardy for LAFC, it didn't seem like it was in jeopardy for either of us or anybody within the stadium and stuff. It was a nice, enjoyable day. We're getting back to a winning streak. I know people will probably say, well, with teams like this, we should have buried them. We should bury them early. I don't disagree, but now that's behind us. We've gotten the 3 points. We look forward to Minnesota United on Wednesday, some hump day havoc, a midweek melee, and then obviously the big one back at the bank on Saturday against our foes down the 110, who have looked pretty darn good in their past couple of games. They too have put on a bit of a winning streak, and it's really on the shoulders of Marco Royce. He is having an incredible season, not just for the Galaxy, but in MLS in general. I mean, 12 straight, you said it, 12 straight games where he's had a goal contribution. So we got our work cut out for us as we're starting to get into this crazy, 3rd, 4th match day in 8 days, something like that. It's crazy.
Yeah, let's not overlook Minnesota United. We got to go to Minnesota first, middle of the week. Let's take care of business there first, although I would expect maybe a little bit of roster rotation in Minnesota.
Yeah.
I would expect a little roster rotation in Minnesota so that obviously the Carson match at BMO Stadium is where LAFC is putting a few more of their eggs, if you will. And then it's one more match against Portland and then on to Leagues Cup where we play Mazatlan to begin everything.
That'll be good.
LAFC now 4th in the Western Conference in terms of points per match. That's big because we have matches in hand against everybody. But San Diego does keep winning, by the way. They're pretty good, turns out.
We've seen the story before with St. Louis and with Austin.
I
At
hear you.
some point, they will come down to earth.
It may not be this regular season, though. I don't know. We'll see.
Well, look at what St. Louis did. They did the same thing, and then towards the end of their inaugural season, they started pooping the bed. But they were so good initially that they hung on and won the Western Conference. That's what I'm predicting for San Diego. But they're going to come back down to earth, and I think they're going to get a rude awakening come playoffs. But either way, fantastic season they're having. Absolutely.
I hear you. I would also just like to point out this was Hugo Lloris's, I believe, 28th clean sheet for LAFC. That is now 8 more than a certain goalkeeper that you mentioned earlier that I will not.
Clean sheets in 50 appearances? Wow.
No. 28 clean sheets in 72 appearances, 50 league appearances.
50 league. Yeah. That's what I messed up on.
Yeah.
Surprised you didn't correct me. 50 league appearances for Hugo Lloris.
Yeah. But all that being said, 8 more than that other guy that you mentioned, which I'm not going to get in trouble with anybody and mention that name again. So I already get in trouble every time I do. So that being said, Philly, we got a fun one coming up, right? We got Chelsea and PSG later on today. I know you and I are both rooting for Chelsea because for the simple fact is we kind of want to say that the winner came from our group, that we played a pretty solid 2-0 loss against the team that won the Club World Cup, right?
I completely agree. That is the only mechanism that makes me want to support Chelsea. Well, that and the fact that I have a severe disdain for PSG. And people have asked me why I hate PSG so much. Look, I'll tell you, it has nothing to do with the players on the pitch. It has nothing to do with the coach. In fact, from a footballing perspective, it is quite a joy to watch PSG play because they play at such a high level. For me, it's a little personal. Taking the stadium tour, having them tell the kids to take off their football kits from other teams, seeing kids crying around me because they didn't understand why they had to wear their messy Barca kits inside out, and also the fact that they made me take off my LAFC rain jacket walking outside on a rainy day because it was another club. You know what? Up yours, PSG. I hope you get decimated today by Chelsea.
And with that being said, our buddy Ruben's already playing us off with his comment. We appreciate it. Please don't forget to like, subscribe, turn on notifications. And again, however you take in the Defenders of the Bank content that you do, we so appreciate you. We can't wait to start talking about things like the All-Star Game and Leagues Cup and all kinds of other fun stuff. But before that, we got a whole lot more MLS action coming up. And you know how we like to end every single one of these episodes.
Bye-bye.